Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram here, Monday, November 11th. Happy Veterans Day, everyone. And joining me today is my colleague, Ken Shreve. Ken, it's great to see you as always. And tell me, what do we have on tap for today?
Yeah, another strong market here. We had chip stocks under a lot of pressure today. Didn't have much effect on the Nasdaq, so we'll talk about that. But want to take a look at three stocks as usual. First one is going to be Embraer, a Brazilian aircraft maker, ERJ. Also want to take a look at Travelers, insurance giant TRV, and then end with Starbucks, which broke out of a base today and could be a nice turnaround story going around here.
All right, sounds like a plan, Ken. We will take a look at those stocks, but first, let's take a look at the major indexes. Small caps leading the way with the Russell 2000 up 1.6% in today's session, followed by the Dow up 0.7%. The S&P 500 up 0.1%, and the Nasdaq did close in the green by the end of the session, up a little less than 0.1%. But let's start with small caps here, Ken. We know that last Wednesday, definitely on fire with that character change in the market last week that we saw on the heels of the election. So, really revving up and leading the way again here today.
Yeah, beautiful breakout for the Russell 2000 small cap index. Still has a go. If we just go to the weekly chart for the Russell, you see it still has a ways to go to get to its all-time high, but a new 52-week high for the index today. Not that far from that all-time high of 2458. That was set all the way back in late 2021, it looks like. So Russell 2000 had been lagging, but now it is outperforming and looking very strong here.
So, in terms of portfolio management, Ken, does this mean that we should be looking more to those small and mid cap stocks and seeing what's looking interesting to add to the portfolio if it hasn't totally run away from us by now?
Yeah, a lot of the market has run away from us, but I think it certainly makes sense to if you just look at the relative strength line for the Russell 2000, and maybe you compare that to the Nasdaq. It's certainly a better performing index at this point. So, relative strength line is getting back near highs. We've had money sort of coming out of the Magnificent Seven. That's weighed on the Nasdaq 100 a little bit, but even the Nasdaq is up near all-time highs here. So I think it makes sense to look at the small and even the mid cap area of the market because the S&P mid cap 400 also outperformed. Not quite as much as the IWM did today, but the mid cap 400 did outperform the major stock indexes today.
Okay, and there's a look at MDY. You can see with the gain of almost 0.9% in today's session. Okay, and you mentioned the Nasdaq lagging here, but after such a powerful week last week, to see it close slightly in positive territory, not a bad thing. I mean, if this just keeps running away, that does make it harder, Ken. So some sort of pause here right at highs seems like it could actually be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty amazing. The Nasdaq was up for what four straight days powerfully, and then it barely budged today. So it did lag the small cap index, but the VanEck semiconductor ETF that was under a lot of pressure today. That was down about 2.2%. So to see a day where the Nasdaq basically closed flat, fractionally higher, but to see chip stocks under a lot of pressure with again SMH down about 2.2%, just another way that the Nasdaq was showing strength today, and breadth was positive all day. Really didn't move much in either direction. It was about 3 to 2 positive all day on the Nasdaq and the NYSE. So. We'll see the S&P 500 if it can break out over the 6,000 level with conviction. It's trying to also up for 5 days in a row. It after a gain like that, it could pull back here a little bit, maybe just gather its juices here before it makes a try to take out the 6,000 level.
Okay. And let's quickly take a look at the Dow before we move on. Your thoughts on blue chips? We have another round number here. The S&P 6,000, Dow now above 44,000.
Yeah, that was a nice retaking. Closed just below the 44,000 level on Friday, but index had a nice day. Definitely outperformed the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, which basically didn't move a whole lot today. But big reason behind the Dow's outperformance. Salesforce had a big upgrade, up 6% or so in the blue chip index. So that's one reason why the Dow was able to outperform today. And you can see it wasn't that long ago when Salesforce was kind of below that 40-week moving average, was really looking like a tired stock, and then it
Mhm.
just kind of found its mojo and is back up near highs here.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the sector action, just before we move on here, Ken, the financials back, you know, back in charge today. It looked like up 1.4%, one of the leading sectors today.
Yeah, a lot of people feeling pretty good about the financials in 2025. They haven't been easy to buy. I mean, the last time to probably nibble at XLF was when it was initially breaking out over that 45 level. Came down, found support last week near its 50-day moving average. So we're still looking for a way to get into the financial sector. It most likely is going to be on a low volume pullback. Chasing the financials here is a little bit tricky. I think the market right now is kind of tempting people to buy the leadership, and certainly financials are leading here. But you do need to be careful about chasing ETFs or financial stocks that have run too far too fast, and there's a lot of them out there right now. So we'll continue to watch the sector and you know be more comfortable buying on a low volume pullback.
Right, absolutely. Okay, let's move on
Just a
and
quick note
look. Oh,
on
go ahead.
SMH too. I wanted just to mention, just in
Sure.
terms of from a news perspective,
Yeah.
the SMH was lagged pretty much all day today, and you had quite a bit of weakness in Taiwan Semiconductor, which is the one of the top weighted holdings in Van Eck. And apparently, the Biden Reuters reported that the Biden administration has asked Taiwan Semiconductor to stop sending advanced AI chips to customers in China. Maybe not a big surprise there, but here's that some of this geopolitical news that could weigh on semiconductor stocks here. You can see SMH had a good day. It didn't have a good day. Held the 250 level, kind of holding above a short-term support level. So not broken, but again, for the Nasdaq to perform the way it did today, pretty impressive considering there was a lot of selling in the semiconductor sector.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's talk about some tickers. Here's a look at ERJ. We did get a breakout from Embraer on Friday and it followed up on that today. We did have earnings out last week and a big percentage gain for that bottom line growth, Ken.
Yeah, well, we're seeing a lot of stocks that are sort of up and out of there and not really near proper entry points. At least with ERJ, you did have a nice breakout Friday. It was an earnings breakout. You can see the bottom line was up 572% year over year. You had a nice acceleration in revenue, up 32%. So this one, still looks actionable here. Still in that 5% buy zone from the 3730 entry. Obviously a better entry on Friday, but again, not a stock that it doesn't really look too far extended at this point. Maybe it pulls back a little closer to that 3730 entry, but a name acting well here that doesn't look too stretched at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's take a look at where it is versus the 10-week line. It's about 10% above the 10-week, but for a breakout, that's definitely not bad.
Yeah, we always want to pay attention to where a stock is trading in relation to its 50-day moving average on the daily chart and also the 10-week moving average on the weekly chart. So, yeah, I mean it's probably a little stretched above the 10-week at 10%, but again, you can see it's still kind of in the early stages of breaking out here. So you always have to kind of reconcile those two things. You see a stock that might look extended, but it's still in the early stages of breaking out here. So, while a lot of stocks have raced past proper entries, this one's still in the 5% buy zone, not by much, but it's still in the buy zone here. And again, maybe some people would just want to put it on the watch list and wait for a low volume pullback closer to that 3730 pivot. But right now, a stock in this market that looks actionable.
Yeah. Let's take a look at TRV. This is Travelers, an insurance giant, up about 0.6% on the day today. But if you take a look at the weekly chart, it's that 10-week that we got some support at last week. So this one is in range here too, Ken.
I think so. And if you want to look outside of tech, maybe you think the selling in semiconductor stocks could have a little more to go. Maybe you think the Magnificent Seven, their days of leadership are behind them. Not a bad idea looking at the insurance sector here. Travelers is obviously a high quality name, market cap of almost 60 billion. Nice earnings breakout recently, and what you have here is just a low volume pullback and a nice test of the 10-week moving average. So you see the 2 weeks where it did decline recently, volume really dried up, and then the bounce last week came in actually higher volume than the prior 2 weeks. So this is a name that looks good. It's not going to give you the returns of a aggressive growth stock, but you want to pay attention to some of these big liquid names that are acting well in this market, and Travelers, I think, certainly fits the bill.
Mhm. And let's round things out with a look at Starbucks, a nice mover in today's session, up 2.8%, clearing that century mark at 100 and breaking out of a very large cup with handled base here, Ken, as the company starts to enact its turnaround plan. Your
Yeah, and
thoughts?
they have a pretty savvy CEO that's doing it, and Brian Niccol. Before Brian Niccol went to Chipotle and led Chipotle through a major growth phase, he was responsible for a lot of Taco Bell's early success. So this guy Brian Niccol comes into companies and really knows how to drive a growth story. So him coming into Starbucks here, I thought it was a brilliant hire by the board. If we swing to the daily chart here, you don't have a lot to work with in terms of fundamentals with Starbucks. Obviously, some recent declines in earnings and sales, but as Nickel starts to engineer a turnaround here, you'd expect this company to return to bottom line and top line growth, and they're expected to do that next year. So nice breakout today. Volume was okay, much higher than Friday, just a little bit above average, but that 99.51 pivot looks pretty good here. So not often that we talk about a stock with a relative strength rating of 67, but you do have a good technical setup here, and certainly it's easy to have a lot of faith in the new CEO at Starbucks, Brian Niccol. Really good pedigree, and if anybody's going to turn this company around, I think he's got a good shot to do it.
Mhm. All right, Ken. Well, that is it for today, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thanks, Ken, for all of your insights. Okay, everyone, we will see you in the morning on IBD Live. Be sure that you're keeping tabs on investors.com throughout the overnight hours and tomorrow during the trading day. That's where you can find all the latest stock market news and analysis. And IBD Live, you can tune in starting 10 minutes before the opening bell, investors.com/IBD Live for all the details on that. We will see you there. And then we'll also see you right back here tomorrow.